Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I've uploaded, mainly because your girl's been in Korea. But after a 11-week trip, I'm finally back, and I figured it'd be a really great time to A, talk about my trip a little bit, B, answer some questions, C, kind of update anyone who's watching where I'm at right now in my life. And I can do it all while opening the exorbitant amounts of packages I have. As we all know, I'm a very big BTS army. And while I was away, I got several packages from BTS's like merch company delivered to my house. So I haven't opened any of them yet because I wanted to save them for this video. So let's get to it. Okay, so I have my packages lined up here. I have a total of 6, and I do know what I'm expecting, but you know, after you've ordered something like 6 months ago and then it finally gets to your door, it feels like a surprise again. Let's start with box number 1. First of all, the trip was absolutely amazing. Definitely one of the experiences that I know I will never regret. It was something I was almost like worried or anxious to tell people that I was like doing it because it didn't feel real until I was like actually there, you know, but a really important memory and experience in my life now. I think another question that I want to answer is kind of, well, why didn't I post more about my trip in Korea? I started off pretty strong, you know, I did the like pack with me. Here's my first like week or two in Korea. The thing is, as someone who works in production and like likes to make videos and stuff and is a creative in that sense, I don't do as well in terms of making videos that aren't like planned. Like I need some pre-pro, you know? My own videos that I've created, the ones I like more are the ones that I've taken more time to think about, like to think of what shots I want or what is like the story I want to tell, you know? And I think during my time in Korea, a lot of stuff was happening on the fly and wasn't as planned, or there wasn't as much time to stop and get B-roll footage. And that's one reason. And the second reason, I just didn't want to spend a lot of my trip there working, or especially like regular working plus like editing stuff. It just wasn't fun, you know? I wanted to like go out and do stuff and see stuff and just kind of enjoy being there, enjoy existing in Korea, you know? So I have a lot of like the different clips of things I've done in Korea or places I've seen, etc. I just haven't figured out how I want to put them together. Because at first it was going to be more chronological of like, this is what I did this week, next week, etc. But I think that might change in terms of maybe just grouping certain content together, like, oh, all bunch of different like cafes I went to, or like different, I don't know, nature walks I went on with like a little bit of a voiceover to kind of pull the story together, as well as use that as an opportunity to reflect and kind of discuss those parts of my time there. Like, I will definitely have a BTS centric video for sure, just because obviously I was in their home country. I got to do a lot of things that were BTS based, or, you know, got to experience a lot of things that BTS members have done or been, and obviously yet to come was in Korea, as well as spending a lot of time with army friends I made. So that'll be in the future. Anyway, the first thing I opened, I'm excited. I'm excited to put these on my refrigerator because they are magnets from the Proof merchandise drop. Now, how does one open? Okay, it's a slide out. But look how freaking cute. Look at that. So it's magnets of all of their albums. How freaking cute. Okay. So. The magnet for Or Are You Late Too? And the real one. How freaking cute. Adorable. But yeah, so these will look beautiful on my refrigerator. Love it. Gang's all here. Okay. All right, so that was a fun package. Oh my God, these are so precious. I love these. I can't wait to put them on my fridge. Moving on to package number 2. Oh, this one's actually pretty light. Huh. I do know what it is by the shape of it, but I'm surprised that it's this light. But anyway, let me answer a couple questions. I posted on my Instagram about questions, see if anyone had any. First and foremost, people asked about what it was like to travel solo. And in my opinion, I really liked solo traveling. I think doing a little bit of both solo and group is the best combination, just because some things are just more fun with people and some things are totally fun to do alone, you know? Like sometimes it's nice not to have to think about what other people want to do, and you can just do what you want to do on your own time frame, on your own time schedule. I thought it was going to be more of a quiet solo trip, but it really, really wasn't. I met a lot of great people, whether they were like friends of a friend, or in one of the hostels I stayed in, I became really good friends with another girl who was staying there too. So we've hung out a couple times. I made friends through BTS, of course. I got to meet up with army friends that I kept in contact with online, and then who are from Korea. And so when I got to Korea, I just spent time with them. More about that probably in the BTS video. Reddit was actually a really great place for me to meet people, which is surprising because I think that most people probably think that Reddit users are like toxic and like just kind of like you don't get involved, you know? But all the people I met through Reddit were really, really awesome. I met some amazing girls there. I met like a couple guys, and I've met like just the amount of friends I've made literally across the world is really, really cool. And I think that my time in Seoul actually like showed me that the world is a lot smaller than you think. Oh, okay. So this one I knew was going to be this. It's my Jack in the Box from J-Hope's merch for when he released Jack in the Box, the album. And I always wanted an actual Jack in the Box when I was younger. I thought that was like so freaking cool. And I always like wanted to do a DIY version of like myself, you know? It's kind of the same way that I've always wanted to make like a Muppet of myself. But anyway, let's see the, oh, it already popped up. Let me push that back and we can do it for real. Okay. So it comes with, of course, little like photo cards, as most merch does. Here she is. So it has a lot of like lyrics from Arson on it, which is great. And then obviously like the, you know, like design the graphics and stuff. And then on top is the track list of the album. So let's do it. Okay, I wonder if I should, I'll do it facing you guys. Wait. Okay. Hello? Oh my god, it's... How freaking cute! So adorable. I'll do that again. I don't know, it's kind of funny because, like, I know this is like a good time, but I'm like, this is kind of scary. When you, at least when I do it slowly, right? Wah! There it is. A hope in the box. But okay. Other questions I've seen are basically must-see places. Honestly, these are the things I feel like you have to do when you go to Korea, which is basically the Namsan Tower. You got it. Like, I think that's just something that everyone does, and I feel like, you know, there's a reason, so you should go. And like the site is beautiful to like just look over the entire city. It really is beautiful. Second thing, you do have to, like, you have to visit the palaces. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of history in Korea, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go visit some of the palaces or temples and stuff. And of course, renting a hanbok, like, that's just classic things to do there, and there's a reason for it, so I say go for it. Third thing for me personally, it's go to the Han River. The Han River. Like, I think that was probably one of my favorite things. I loved the feeling I got just riding a bike down the river and just really feeling nature and kind of just people watching and like sightseeing across, you know, the beautiful city of Seoul. And here's the thing, I'm like not a biker. Like, I'm definitely not a biker. Like, I get on the bike and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, for like the first 10 minutes. But honestly, like, riding my bike along the Han River was like one of the most like cathartic feelings for me. I don't know, I just felt so like free and alive, and I don't know, I'm just grateful. So definitely recommend going to the Han River. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies in Korea that I think are really great. I think the thing is they're just not as like obvious, you know, or there's little things to do everywhere you go. But I do think those are my top 3 things for someone who's going for the first time, for sure. So something I missed about home when I was there. Of course, the answer is going to be friends and family. Just having people easily accessible who you know are like down for you. I will say there's not that much I missed about my like regular everyday to-day life, you know what I mean? It's more just like the relationships, you know? I wasn't there long enough to create any like solid ones, but I think the beginnings of a lot of great friendships were started in Seoul. So I do genuinely believe that Seoul could be a home. Like, I definitely felt very comfortable there. Of course, I would have felt more comfortable if I could understand the language a little better at all. Okay, next thing I got in my many packages is a DVD for the BTS Love Yourself, Speak Yourself, the final in Korea. So this was their last concert before COVID happened and their world tour got canceled for Map of the Soul 7. But yeah, so now I have another DVD. Oh, a nice little like lenticular. Can you see that? Like, it looks purple, and then you, if I could find, oh, there it is. That's them. Fun purple. not fun. So yay, something for me to watch eventually. Add it to the list of things I need to watch. Best places to eat, I've gotten a lot. Obviously Korea has a ton of freaking food and there's so many restaurants there where I think it's definitely hard for me to pinpoint one place that I like to eat just because there are so many options. I do think obviously you got to go for Korean barbecue at some point, duh. I love pork belly. I love a nice like bossam, so I love a lettuce wrapped pork belly, just like lettuce, perilla leaf, rice, samjang, pork belly, raw garlic, maybe some pickled vegetables. Oh, melt. I'm like salivating thinking about it. Like that's like my favorite meal. I do think that the like Michelin guide and kind of looking at blogs and stuff is definitely really useful. If there's certain dishes you want to try, maybe do a little research on that particularly. Like I personally, again, I love bossam, I love jjajangmyeon, and I love galbijjim. So like those are things that I like definitely want to have in Korea for sure. I would say they're not as easy to get here, or when I say here, I definitely mean like where I live. It might be easier for people who live in cities that have like K-town areas. Unfortunately, I don't really have that. But another question I've gotten asked was basically about like differences in culture that from here in the West and in Korea. I think there are some things I think that surprised me where definitely the smoking culture in Korea is thriving. It's not so much in the US anymore. Like you don't really see a ton of people like smoking actual cigarettes anymore. But in Korea, they definitely still do. There are places where you can like smoke indoors. Like I went to like some of the clubs and it was like, oh, you're smoking right next to me. That's okay, you know? Or there's a lot of like inside smoking areas, which again, in the US, you don't really have that much. The only place I could think of is probably a casino where you can like smoke indoors. But that was surprising. I think some of the little conveniences in Korea is nice in the sense of a lot of like stores in Korea might have a place for you to put your waters and stuff when you walk into the store, so you don't have to carry it around while you're shopping, which prevents you obviously from like spilling stuff or leaving your coffee like on a shelf or something, which I thought was nice. Same thing with like at the crosswalks, there's usually like these really big umbrellas to keep you shaded, which is nice, you know. I've gone to some bus stops that have like either you can like sit inside a bus stop or they're like heated seats. Obviously not everywhere, but some of them do have that, which I thought was really nice. I think another thing I really liked about Korea that I don't know, I feel like we've lost here is the reading culture. I don't know, like I would go to like the bookstores there and it'd be full of people browsing, full of people chilling, full of people like reading. And I feel like, I don't know, that if anything, that made me want to read more, you know, like, oh, I'm surrounded by people who actually like to read. That's cool. Whereas here, you know, I go to like a Barnes and Nobles and like, it's really not that busy anymore, you know? But yeah, those are things I can think of from the top of my head. And the next thing I opened was this lyrics inside book, which I think is really cool. So it's about lyrics, the interpretations, and behind the scenes anecdotes for readers to share the songwriting experience with BTS. Oh God, there's like, so it's only about 10 songs in here, but this is a pretty thick book for 10 songs, huh? I'm actually really excited to read this book too, or to go through it, just because I'm a big lyrics person. Like when I was younger, I really, really enjoyed writing. Like reading and writing were two of my favorite things to do. I was always been someone who writes in a journal or diary or whatever. And personally, I love poetry. I love prose poetry. Like one of my like big goals in my life is to publish a book of poetry or a book or something. Like, you know, I wanted to be an author for a long time. I still feel like a writer. Unfortunately, I don't physically write enough anymore, you know what I mean? But that is actually something I would like to change going into 2023. But anyway, I think lyrics are something that mean a lot to me in music. It's just because that's an extra layer to the song in addition to obviously how it sounds. But like, I put a lot of value on words. I put a lot of value on lyrics. And honestly, I think that it just deepens my connection with BTS through actually reading their lyrics and like really listening to what they are saying, you know? And of course, it takes a little more time and effort, but like, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. So I'm excited to go through this book. And so then these are basically similar questions about what it's like being a foreigner there, about how much like Korean you should learn and how it's like transportation and stuff. In my opinion, I do think that everyone would benefit from learning how to read Hangul just because it's not difficult. It's really not. You can probably learn it in a day. Just so you can maybe translate English words into Korean. Like for example, this goes back to public transportation. Sometimes the apps can be a little finicky with the way you write in addresses. That would be baseline in my opinion. Obviously you can get around without doing that. People do, but I think it would be a little helpful. I think most people know the same basic words, you know, hello, 안녕하세요, I'm sorry, 미안해요, 죄송합니다, you know, 괜찮아요, which means I'm okay, you know, like there are other basic phrases I think are worth learning. Just for example, you go into a restaurant, most people will say, how many people? And if you can say like 두 명이에요, which means we are two people, like, or there's two people. Like, things like that will be easier. But most of those basic things, people can just say two and they get it, or like, you know. So I don't think it's super difficult. I do think that learning some phrases, for example, like 있어요, 없어요, which means have or don't have. So you can go into a store and say like T-money card, which is what you use for transportation. 있어요? Do you have a T-money card? 없어요, they don't have it. You know what I mean? Like, simple as that. But yeah, I don't think you have to learn a ton, but I do think it'll always be a little more helpful. I have spoken to people who thought that there would be more people who speak English than there were. So there's that. I do think that in Seoul and probably in Busan, it's not as big of an issue. If you go into more countryside areas, there will probably be less people who can speak English. But but I will say even just having the like Papago app has been really helpful too, in case you have to like translate like a sign or something, or you want to ask something that's a little more detailed and you don't know how to. For example, I forgot to take the security tag off a backpack I bought and I just walked out of the store, and then I realized it later that night. So the next day I went back to the store to be like, hey, I bought this and I forgot to take this off. Can you help me? And I had it like on my phone on Papago ready to show them to be like, this is what happened. But I will say in terms of public transportation, it's really convenient and it's really easy to navigate, in my opinion. The subways go to a lot of different places, same thing with buses. I think if anything, it'll just be kind of figuring out, again, making sure your addresses are in correctly, as well as figuring out timing and stuff too, because with public transportation, things just take a longer time, and that's fine, but you know, you gotta incorporate it into your schedule. I think the only times I've ever had anything not like work out for me is just sometimes it was me being stupid, like, oh, I hopped onto the wrong train, like I was going the opposite direction, stuff like that, or oh, didn't realize, because you know, I'm not a subway or bus taker, not here anyway, like we're all drivers here, but you know, if you don't push the button, they ain't stopping for you, you know, things like that. But also I will say I was kind of surprised that the subways stop at like 12, which is kind of early, I would think, just because there's a lot of nightlife in Korea, which granted, that's why people say you can just stay out until the subways come back on again, because that is very true. There's a lot of places for nightlife where they're open until like 9 a.m. like dead ass, so you could actually stay out all night. Next thing I received is another DVD set. So this is the Memories of 2021 DVD set. There's like usually a few DVDs in here that kind of goes down like behind the scenes of like things that BTS has done throughout the year of 2021. And it's kind of like going through memory lane for me too. I'm like, oh my god, remember when they performed this at that award show? Or like, remember when Butter got, you know, whatever 10 weeks on Billboard? And then I think the last question I'll answer is, what was my favorite part and what were the biggest lessons I've learned about myself? Which is a great question, because you know what? This trip was very much a part of my personal growth. For me as a person, just kind of recognizing that, you know what, I can do this stuff. Like, I can go out and find my way in the world, you know? I can do it. I know and I knew I could, but like, it's just extra layer of like, I know I can do this. But I also really loved, again, meeting a ton of new people from different places all over the world. I loved, obviously, the BTS stuff, but like, more so than that, I think I had a really great time making connections with people. I loved being outside in nature, being at the Han River, at the beach in Jeju or in Busan, or just, you know, walking down the street with all like the leaves falling in the middle of autumn. Like, I don't know, it just made me very grateful for like life. That's what I really loved about my time there. Things I've learned about myself. I've been able to be a lot more introspective about my like solo personal development, growth, transition journey of like learning who I am and continuing with what I want to do in my life, and like, you know, figure it out, right? That's all we're doing, is figuring our own shit out. And for me, I feel like Korea was really important in that, just because, I don't know, I felt inspired. I definitely felt really inspired for my life. Like, I want to learn more things. I want to do more things. And I'm about to turn 30, which is like, you know, it's a very weird turning point for a lot of people. And I guess it is for me too. I really hope that the feelings I had in Seoul stick with me going forward. And I know that I wrote myself a letter at one of these cafes where basically they'll mail it to you in like a year or something, or whenever date you want to. Basically, I wrote that, hey, you're in Seoul and you feel these things right now in 2022. Now, asking the future me, do you still feel those things? Like, do you still feel that like lust for life, ready to learn, ready to grow, ready to just like chase your dreams or whatever, or to like, you know, really manifest and like attract the life that you want and deserve, etc., etc. So I'm in a bit of a transition phase for sure. I originally thought that I would come home to a certain like job position, which ended up falling through like right at the last minute, which is unfortunate. And I kind of threw a little bit of my plans out of whack, which is okay. A lot of that like inner work I think that I've done have helped me let the shit roll off my back, or like not really hyper focus on things that are not great. Having faith in myself and what's to come is really helpful for me, especially on the days that I would normally think are really difficult. In the past, I've let some crappy days really destroy me for like months, you know what I mean? Which it just makes the whole situations that you're going through 1,000 times harder. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question about what I learned, but that's the way I feel. And I think that's the only thing I have here going forward, right? It's just paying attention to how I feel and, you know, moving on through life and believing that everything's gonna be fine. And then again, when you believe it, you will work with it. Then, last but not least, I'm actually very excited for this one. I have the BTS recipe book. I'm excited that I got all these like new things, right? Basically, it's Christmas for me, from me. But I don't know, I'm happy to be back in the sense of I feel refreshed for life, right? And I just hope that the things that I would like to happen, that things fall into place, that all the little bumps in the road smooth out, you know? That, I don't know, the way we like to say it is it's this or something better. And I'm working towards that something better every single day. Well, thank you so very much for watching. If you like videos like this or want to hear more about my career trip and my future adventures of me figuring out my entire life, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you then.